right. And Lakesha, Lakeen, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. It's through your support and sharing and liking and giving us those great 5 stars that helps the show. We have the amazing one and only Rhonda Cribbs. She is super knowledgeable on the human design. She has over 14 years immersing herself with this unique system. She does live workshops, she does coaching, and the list goes on and on. She works with children, helps parents as well, and has just been a pioneer in this subject. So, welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to be discussing so many great topics. I know that we did a previous episode on human design. It was so insightful. And now we're just going to even go a little deeper and talk about some other fun things that we didn't get to really cover on the last episode. And so we wanted to bring you some very unique topics about the human design. I know that it has been trending. So for many of you that are on Instagram or TikTok, human design is all over the place. But what does it really mean, and how can you apply this very unique system, right? I would say it's very unique. And the founder and creator is Ra Uru, which I follow his channel also on socials. And it's just such a unique perspective. So, Rhonda, let's talk a little bit about, for the listeners and people watching us, we will have this on YouTube as well. That's a new format that I am offering. I am going to start doing the videos. So, thank you so much once again. So, Rhonda, tell us a little bit how you got immersed in the system.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was back in, I was still a classroom school teacher. I've worked mainly with first graders, but I've worked with all of K through 5. So my background and what I have a master's in is education and counseling. And towards the end of my career, it was becoming clear that I wanted to transition and retire from it. And it was right around that time that I was transitioning that human design came into my life. I was exploring a lot of esoteric things because I was connected to a spiritual group. And one of the things that came through that group was human design. And, it really, it was, when I first looked at my chart, my body graph, I was like, wow, this is, some kind of extensive piece of information that looks like you need to have a lot of training to understand it. However, my friend that brought it to me kept on saying, don't be up in your head so much about it, just feel it. And I did that for 4 years. I have emotional authority. So that was correct for me to really be able to have that time to try and connect some dots with real life experiences to the information. And so we were getting bits and pieces of things and, from the person that brought it to us. And I knew there was something quite extraordinary to this information. And I just got called into it. And by 2012, I wanted to have a reading from Catherine Kennard, who was very well known, a longtime student of Ra. And I had a reading, and that was it. I was so driven into this information. And in the beginning, it was very mental process, but then eventually it shifted as I began to attend these live immersion workshops in Sedona, Arizona, where you actually apply what the tools are of strategy and authority with other people in that same process as well. And they call that an experiment because there's nothing to believe in human design, right? So it's, you have to verify the information for yourself. So in these rooms with other people, you explore what it means to follow your strategy and authority based upon whoever else is showing up in the room. And I guess it takes a lot of courage to show up in those rooms to be able to do that. And I kept on responding, and it was in the first 7 years of me radically for myself going into this process to verify it. I really wanted to know thyself, right? This is the system, according to Ra, and what was transmitted is to for us to, as generators and manifesting generators, to know ourselves, but for anyone to have a better understanding of themselves. And so, yes, and then I went through the educational process as well as the experiential process, as well as my own deconditioning process. And now I've had the privilege to be able to work with other people over the years, giving readings, including working with children and families. I mean, this allows me to see a child that I work with at a level that's unbelievable. I can see how their brain works, how they best learn, what environment supports them. It just goes on and on. And so it's been a real gift as an educator with children to have this information, as you can imagine. But you know, most of all, it's gotten me to relax into who I am and to see, everything about me and my design and be okay. I am okay, and so, and what happens is then you begin to learn that you can trust on this inner authority that's inside of you to guide you with each decision one step at a time, that you have something inside of you that helps you make decisions for yourself, because we can see that you really cannot rely on anybody else outside of you anymore, because they're usually in the same conundrum that you are. They're trying to make decisions too and having sometimes difficulty with it, and so this definitely helped me with making decisions, understanding how that functions for me, so that I can make decisions in my life that are correct for me. And it puts me in alignment with exactly where I'm supposed to be, with who I'm supposed to be with, and what experiences are for me. And, you know, I'm in a very different place than what I was. When I came to human design, I really was sort of like a wreck. I was stressed out on many different levels. There were so many things. I had a lot of frustration and even anger as a manifesting generator when I came to this. And I had a lot of questions, and there was things that I really wanted to understand, and I felt like there was a lot that there was something missing in the bigger picture of life. And I feel like human design has helped me to understand the bigger picture of life for myself. And it really is like this instructional guide that we didn't receive at birth.
It is. And I just wanted to interject and say that I had worked with InDesign. I got introduced to it about, I don't know, 8 years ago. And I learned about human design, but very different ways of interpreting human design. And then when I booked a session with you, which I've got to thank my friend Brittany Allen. Thank you, Brittany, for putting Rhonda Cribs and I together. A little shout out to my cosmic sister Brittany. But I did understand more about myself with that reading that I did with you, which I do want to mention something about how you do your readings that really is beneficial, because human design is a complex, in-depth, very, very I would say informative system where there's so much to learn. And so the way that you do your readings is, you do that the 2 hours, which is awesome, because, or an hour and a half to 2 hours, but you go into such detail and you and explain it in such a way that it is like in layman terms. And one of the things that I was not really introduced, and we've discussed this and I've worked with you, is about my sacral authority and how important that was. And that was never taught. I was never taught that. And it was always
Mhm.
about the gates and whether the centers were filled in or not. And
Mhm.
that was really it. And it wasn't until we had our session that really helped me understand that innate feeling that I would get within my body that I didn't understand. I mean, I knew it was that gut feeling, but
Mhm.
knowing thyself, as you say, I love your website, and I encourage everybody to go to her new site. It's beautiful, and take a look at all her great services and everything that she offers. But it wasn't until you taught me about the yes or no
Mm,
that that's really made a difference in my life. And then also encouraging those close to me to work with me. So it's kind of like you need your tribe and your community to help you as you break through. Because as
mm.
you said, it took you about 7 years. You called
Oh,
it
yes.
the not decongestion. What's
Deconditioning process, which
deconditioning?
Mhm.
Working with it. And so I just wanted to point that out, that it is a game changer. It is a life changing lifestyle once you dive into the human design, because you also have to
Right.
take a lot of responsibility for what your design is, and how you're being received, and you're emotional. And so I have some friends that have emotional authority, and it's amazing just having that very subtle adjustment and how to work with them, how easy it has been to have a connection and a friendship, and
Mhm.
understand that the person is not like myself. I'm instant, like I get the yes
Mhm.
or no, and my body feels it, and I know whether it's a go or no. It's that instant. And then so I was with someone that is emotional, and he's like, "Well, you're asking me way too many questions. I can't process all
Oh.
this. I need some time." And then we talked about it, and so it's those things that can make your life, like you said, a lot easier. So knowing yourself, and all that good stuff. And I know that we've talked about that there are a lot of people, uh, you know, coming on to the human design, but you're second generation. And I think it's important to discuss that you worked with the higher tier of the human design ranks. I think that's very important, because
Um,
you got the knowledge from the higher perspective of how it was supposed to be introduced into the public. And I know there are
uh-huh,
many
uh-huh.
people that are studying human design, but they might not really go to depth and depth as you and your authority in this
Mm.
particular subject.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to chime into that a little bit. I know you have to sit with
Mhm.
things, but I think it's a game changer knowing yourself. And so with Ra
Oh, yeah.
Uru,
Mhm.
which he's the creator, you always said that this is was he it was meant for children. Can you dive a little into that as well?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, when I look back and I reflect on, Ra, and at the time that the information came in, 1987, he had to go through his process as well. And the voice, he had a mystical experience in Ibiza, Spain, where the information was literally, implanted within him, his being. He even changed names after this mystical experience. And he went from his original name, Robert Krakauer, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, to this Ra or Hu being. And the story goes, his mother didn't even recognize him after she saw him after he had this experience. And what the transmission, one of the things that came through in this transmission from the voice, is what he called it, is that this information is for children, because of the time that we're going to be entering into. There's a shift coming, and the cross of planning that we've had for the last 400 years is changing, and it's shifting locks and keys, and it's going from community to individuality. It's going into the incarnation cross of the phoenix. And so this is all about individuality and empowerment, and being, very absorbed in oneself and one's journey and one's truth, and how that uniquely plays out for each person. And because of this shift, there's going to be so many changes, so many things falling away and falling apart, communities breaking down, governments falling apart. We're seeing a collapse everywhere. There's patterns. We've began to see these signs intensely even before, but especially when the pandemic hit. And so the voice was saying that the children would need to know how to make decisions so that they can best navigate through this new world that's no longer about being in a community and having all these supports, all these authorities telling you what to do. We're going to be growing up in a world, so to speak. All of us are going to be living in this world that's going to require you to really have a way to make decisions for yourself. So you can see why this would be significant for those having children that are raising them now, that are going to be growing up in this new era, because that's what we're entering into. And knowing for those that it's meant for, because it's not meant for everyone, according to Ron, it's only a certain percentage on the planet. But for that percentage, it's for those children to be raised exactly who they are, so they know how to make decisions, because there will not be any trustworthy resources outside of themselves. You know, we grew up in a very different generation of time, and we often had things to rely on, and for the good, for the bad, you know, and it's this is falling away. So that's, you know, human design is about making decisions as yourself. And we are Homo sapien intransitus. We're sort of these beings in the evolutionary process that's in a transition right now, because the solar plexus is going through a great mutation where it's shifting from being both a motor and an awareness center. It's actually shifting now into a complete awareness center. So new children coming in from 2027 onward apparently can be born with this if the mutation goes through within their design. So we're living in very profound times right now, and human design is meant exactly for right now. And I've had the privilege of working with the first generation, some of the first generation teachers here in America that worked extensively with Ra. And actually, we were even friends with Ra and knew his family, knew his wife and children. And I've just had that serendipity. That's why it's on the first page of my website. I had no idea I was going to end up meeting these people. At that time in the beginning of my journey, I met the director of the Human Design School, which was Randy Richmond. And he was a very well-known 6'3" projector, member of the Mensa, and so was his wife, Teresa Blanding. And I got to meet him. And so it's been just, you know, I come from that lineage. That's the lineage I bring in, and that's what I offer to people that come in is
Right. And it was profound. I mean, just to reiterate, you know, the session that we had was so different from the way that I was introduced to it that it almost made a lot more sense. And it just, you know, you go so deep and there's so many components. And I love the body graph behind you that I will then later do a screenshot, and it's you know, it's so informative. So you had talked about that there was a star that exploded about 400 years ago named SN 1987A, which some people refer to as Sandulik. That word is not as common. That was back in 1987. So can you talk to us a little bit? Because you said that Ra Uru had felt that like stardust energy, and then around that time he got his downloads.
Oh, yes. Yes. Um, yeah, there's been something about it because it's not something that's talked about a lot, right? You don't really hear about the, you know, what was happening in the world at the time that Ra received the information, you know, unless you have one of the books that talks about it. But yeah, Sandalik was, you know, a blue supergiant star that exploded in 1987. That year, February 24th, it was discovered by a Chilean telescope in an observatory there. And what this is interesting, whether this information probably came after Ra's experience and all of this coming out. But what's very interesting is that the voice explained to him that we got hit by 14 times or something like that, the amount of neutrinos information, which is information from the stars, the cosmos, and the planet. It's passing through each and every one of us every single second. The stars were, but the interesting thing is too, and profound thing is, we're also sending information back out into the cosmos, into the stars as well. So it's going both ways. And when that year, there was a couple things that happened. There was actually an earthquake that was actually recorded. I think it was pretty significant in Asia somewhere. So very interesting, all these different things that were happening, earthquakes and this exploding star, and that all human beings were seeded with the human design information, but only a certain percentage will wake up to it. And this was, the voice was explaining this to Rob before it even came out in public, that neutrinos have mass. And years later, it was a confirmation, and it is noted in some of the human design books that Ra was the author of. It was confirmed information that what the voice was telling him was confirmed later in science. That's one of them. Neutrinos have mass, which also was a verification of some of the human design information, as well as how we get imprinted. Because when you learn about, the foundation of human design, you learn how these charts are formed, how we're all imprinted, and it brings not only the conscious level of who you are, but also the unconscious, which makes that, between the culmination of all the esoteric sciences, and then having the whole unconscious section to, a piece of information. It's really a very unique piece of information, like no other piece of information I've ever seen. And it's a gorgeous system. I mean, it's unbelievable how this came out of one man. And he even said he was not that genius. He never considered himself that smart until after he had this experience, right? And then all this information. And he really said it was implanted in him. Something got implanted in him.
Yeah, like a download. You got
like huge. I mean, because it's like you can study human design for the rest of your life, and there'd still be more things. But he always said, even to his teachers, how no matter how far he went out in his education with the students, he always would pull him back and say, but that's not the point. The point is, this is to help people transform. It's to help people come back to themselves, and to help the children that they may raise, or the people in their lives. And so that's what it's about. And you do that through the very simple of human design, which is very profound. Learning just the very basic foundation of human design and learning the tools, that's all the person really needs, or even less than that. They may even be able to, something might shift if they just went and took off with their strategy and authority. So that's where I really focus on that. I focus, once you go through the transformation and you come out on the other side, it's very interesting. Now, when I learn about things, I have a better understanding of them, and I cannot explain that. So something has changed within me as I went through the deconditioning process, and because I've embodied it, so to speak, I can now, for myself, revisit educational aspects of it. And it's definitely very helpful now to see it from where I am now. I mean, it's so incredible.
I'm sure
And
it's so different from when you first started, and then seeing the evolution of, where humanity was in the 80s and 90s, and now where we are. And so this is kind of like a precursor of the next kind of topic that I wanted to get into, that
Mhm.
it really is, the human design really is tools for transformation. But
Mhm.
as we discussed, there are things that you need to know about it, type, the aura, the strategy, and your inner authority,
Mhm.
so that you can really work with that. And the true human design is really focused on these four elements, right? And then because I had somebody write to me about the gates and the significance of how the gates and the centers filled in. But why don't we talk about the types to start, just to help people understand that they're types, their auras, and their
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
strategy.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I don't want to say that there's, things that are not true in human design, right? Because there are some people that it's absolutely correct for them to go and study it, and maybe they're going to become teachers or, something with it, right? So, everybody has different trajectories and things that they're going to do in life that they get called into. My trajectory and my whole process, going through the verification for it for myself, there was such a huge calling to go through this transformation, like it or not, that I can see what Ra was talking about when he was pulling back his teachers and saying, but that's not the point, and and come back to what this is really for. And that's where I feel I'm uniquely called into that little métier of what human design is, because there's so many different ways. And I come from staying what I feel is true and what's going to help other people, and making it kid friendly, even for the grown-ups too, and helping them, because you can easily get lost and lose sight of what it really is for, right?
I like to always say, you got to demify it for me a little bit.
Right, I mean,
Like,
make it kid
dude,
friendly.
used to go to Barnes and Nobles. They're like, the dummy for
Oh
leaders,
yes, the book series, yes.
so, but it is a complex, beautiful
It
system, as you
is.
say. It's vast and rich, and it's got so much information and so many
Oh yeah.
combinations. And I love the body graph because it almost looks like a spider web, like a matrix web behind you,
Mhm.
like I can see it. And I know that you're going to.
There you go.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We're definitely going to post this, guys, and I'll send some links for the YouTubers. And once again, thanks for subscribing, listening. I will put the body graphs in the YouTube video, and I will also have that on my website. And of course, you've got the link to Rhonda. So
Mhm.
let's continue. I just wanted to kind of
Yeah.
blurb them in a little bit because I just thought it was funny that you had to dumbify it a little bit, even for adults. And I do want to say that when I did work with children in the past, for all those parents out there, which Rhonda and I are going to do a series of parenting 101s, maybe with the human design in the near future. If you're a parent or you're in a relationship, or if you've got coworkers, it's really important to know at least the immediate design of those individuals so that you can
Mm.
better learn how to address and communicate and, not rub people the wrong way. And I know that knowing the human design of the children that I worked with in the past, I was a game changer because I was doing it all wrong. I sucked. I wasn't reaching them. I didn't understand why I wasn't reaching them. And I'm sure there's a lot of frustrated parents out there that feel that their approach is not being effective.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I understood that these little ones, I think there were 3-5 manifestors,
Oh
that
my
trick
goodness.
them. I had to trick them into thinking that they were the ones with the idea, right? That's what I was kind of guided to do. Anyway, it just helped me understand. I'm by no means an expert in human design, but I know the basics here and there to understand
Mhm.
how to, and even with adults, because I mean, we're just really children in adult bodies anyway.
Well, my human design teacher said none of us really grow up until we're 50.
Oh, that's right. I love that. All right. Well, at least
Yeah.
you and I are adults.
Yeah, we're in, if you, what was explained by the voice is that we're in Uranian bodies. Starting in 1781, we started birthing in the evolutionary chain, nine-centered beings who need a Uranian body. What that means is ideally they need 84 years to live out their life. And we need that much time to know thyself. So instead of these short lives where people were dying off even in 20s and 30s at some point in our history, you look at it now, we have these extended lifetimes. And so it's necessary for our evolutionary process to have longer lives now. And it's part of this, what was happening in the evolutionary process. And the thing is that when I came to this, I wasn't very extensively educated person. And so when I was getting into this, I was a little bit intimidated. And a part of me was like, oh no, I hope I don't have to learn this entire whole new system and have to go back to school. Of course, my mind is saying that, right? So I'm here to say that no, you do not have to go and learn the human design system. And it's not the point. Although it may be correct for some. There's tools here, very simple, kid friendly, that anyone can start experimenting for themselves to see if they work. And then if they get called into it, they can enter into a process and experiment to verify this for themselves. And if they really get called into it, they may, do this for the rest of their life, beyond the 7 years, right? So it takes being dedicated and disciplined to breaking patterns that no longer work, that you're not self. There's a term in human design called the not self, right? And that's everything that you're not. And then there's the true self, everything that you really are. And so this is helping you return to that true self, which is not broken. It's just been covered up and conditioned. So that's why they call it a cellular transformation. And what you learn in human design is that there's 4 types. Okay. And the most dominant of the types, about 70%, is the generators and manifesting generators. They are here to love whatever they do or don't do it. Okay. Generators that are pure, meaning they have a sacral center, have sounds for their decision making process, and they need to be asked yes, no questions. They are here to be the worker bees and have their signpost is satisfaction. They're here to have some level of satisfaction and fulfillment, no matter what it is. It could be very mundane housework or, some kind of activity. It's not always has to do with your actual work, right? So some level of, this feels like, I'm so glad I had the energy to, clean my house, and it just happened, And so if they're getting frustrated, that could be a signpost for them that they are not self. And if they're manifesting generators, they can also get angry on top of that too. So they can, eventually get so frustrated that they get angry. And manifesting generators are generators. There isn't separate types, and
They're not.
they're not. They're just a subtype of a generator, but they still have the same aura, open and enveloping.
Oh, that's very
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. So
To
the
point that
aura
out.
is still open and enveloping, like big, huge, vulnerable auras that we have. We are the life force energy. If you have the red box, the sacral center colored in, you have the life force energy for the planet. Ross said if we didn't have generators on the planet, we wouldn't have life. And it is where the ovary and the testes, the biological association with that center is the ovary and the testes. It's the center for creation of life. And it's where generators have sounds for decisions, but they've all been conditioned out of them. And so most of them have to go into a practice of reawakening the muscle, reworking that muscle with or Now, emotional authority generators and manifesting generators may not always have sounds. They may have sounds for certain things, as we all do in life, for sex, good food, and just giggling and laughing and farting. And we make all kinds of noises, right? But we've actually even been conditioned out of there's something wrong with us making noises, this politeness game as children. And so all our sounds have been stifled by society. They really have. And we are here to make all kinds of sounds, right? So, you return back to your natural state in human design with these tools. And so they're the dominant force on the planet, but they're also the dominant frequency we hold, which is frustration and angry. Okay. So you feel it, and some people just feel that this is how they are to live their life like that. And that's not true. When you come to human design, you realize there's a way to break away from that and have more satisfaction and fulfillment doing the things that you love or don't do it. And so imagine raising children with this and, having them have these sounds, which is natural on a playground if you listen to small children on a playground. And so they are the dominant type. And then the next dominant type is projectors, who are the newer of the four types that there are. Okay. And there's varying um, authorities to them depending on the projectors. You can have splenic, you can have no authority, which is the mental projector. You can have self-projected projector. Even more rare is the ego projector, and you can have emotional projectors. Projectors are here to be guides to the energy, and they have a power in that, and they can see so much. They can see extraordinarily deeply into the person's sternum, into their chest, into the magnetic monopole, and they can pick up energy feeds. And they are here. So, generators and manifesting generators, I forgot to mention, are here to wait to respond. They are not here to chase or go after anything, although we've been deeply conditioned to make things happen from everyone and everywhere. And human design is saying, stop, sit back, wait. You have a magnetic monopole in your chest, which is a monopole, meaning it only attracts. Everything comes to you as a generator, and then you use your authority to respond yes or no, whether it's or it's over time if you're emotional. So what you learn in human design, which can be very life-changing, is that there's nothing to chase after. It's huge. And you learn that we're here to wait to see what's going to show up on your trajectory for you to respond to.
Oh my
So
gosh, can we just oh, go ahead. I just wanted to, when you're done with your thought, I wanted to share something about how important that is.
Oh, it is like I felt relief when I heard that. I'm like, really? I mean, and then I thought, oh my God, was I trying to make things happen? That's where the frustration and the anger was coming from, and make that relationship work or make. So like when you get, it was like, wow, I just got a free pass or something, but I came to human design that I don't have to chase after anything, that I'm just going to attract it. Wow, that's amazing. And we're attractive to people because of our huge 2.5 arm lengths in all direction auras, right? We're just wow. And I feel set free, let me tell you. I mean, that was setting me free. Human design really, I feel like it set me free to be me and to relax and just wow. Trust that life sends you everything you need. Wow. It might not be what your mind thinks you need, but boy, you get taken care of. You really do get taken care of. And so, projectors have to wait too. Projectors are here to wait for their invitation, where generators are here to wait for to something to respond to. Yes, no questions or something else. We're always moving, we're always responding. The bee is buzzing in the park, you go and follow it. That's a generator. And the projector ideally is here like, oh, you better watch where you're going. You might fall in that gap. They can
Yeah.
see things, ahead of us, so to speak, and when
Is
in
this the generators? The
uh,
generator?
the projectors can be helpers, great helpers to generators when invited. Okay.
Mm.
They have, there's a potential for them to really have a harmonious connection with one another because we're these big energy conglomerates, just, we don't know what in the world's going on. We're just in this huge bubble, bouncing all around with our energy, la da 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 da. And the projectors are kind of seeing the bigger picture where we're not, but they have to be asked and they can't tell us to do what to do. None of us are here to be told what to do by anyone. We're all here to be asked. And so, projectors are very good at seeing energy fields. They can be a great benefit to their generator people in their lives. And they're not here to be bitter. And projectors become bitter because they go out of their way, kind of being like poinsettia dogs. And this is wrong and that is wrong. And they're not invited and they're causing kind of chaos because they're can be very interruptive and they can share a whole mother load of what they're seeing to somebody that's just not seeing any of that and they meet resistance and they become bitter. If they only knew human design, that they should just play hard to get, play hard to get because they will be seen. They're here to be seen. They're here to have recognition for whatever they are a master of. Projectors are here to be masters of a system so that when they do get seen and recognized, they can get the correct invitation because they're here for success. Generators, manifesting generators are here for satisfaction. Projectors are here for success. And
And
I'm
then there's
working.
yeah.
Hmm? Yeah,
Oh
I'm
no,
working
then
with
there's reflectors, right?
yeah, and then so you have these projector types that are very powerful, but they don't have a defined sacral center. So they're not here to be worker bees. They're here to learn when enough is enough. The same goes for manifestor types and reflector types. All of them are not meant to be worker bees. They can to a certain extent, but they have a finite amount of energy and they all are recommended to have a bedtime, interestingly enough. So, you have projectors, which are about 20 something percent, 27% or so of the population. And then you have the more rare types. And the next one in the line of types is manifestor. Manifestor is the only one out of all four types that can initiate something. you know they have now, back to the projector because this is very significant. They have a penetrating aura like a bow and arrow and it's very penetrating and it goes right into the sternum where the magnetic monopole is, the center of love direction and love direction and all the different things. It's my open head and Ajna is losing that information, but here it's picking up a lot of information about the identity, role, and love. And so they have to be invited because once they tune in and come in, they're really going, and you can really feel like, wow, this is delicious. Somebody really sees me. Wow. But at the same time, if that's going on too long, enough is enough. You can feel like a fly, pinned up against the wall, so to speak, because that aura is so powerful. And so it's something to be aware of. It's best for them to have one-on-one connections because of that. So anyway, now we go over to the manifestor type, and they are about 17% of the world's population. They are known as the lone wolves. They have aura that's like a marble that weighs a ton. It's penetrating. It's like push you out. It's like push, 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 push in every single direction. I mean, It's quite something, and that's how they are protected because they can come in, they're here to inform. Da, 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 da. Maybe they're asking generators to do something or whatever. They're asking the projectors or inviting them into something. And then they don't really stick around. They're like the managers, they're bosses that you only see every once in a while. They come in and they help stuff get started. We need our manifestors. They help get things revitalized and started up, but they even have to wait. They have to wait to get life to push them into something. So they can get a ton of ideas, which they really do. But it's not until whatever their authority, splenic, emotional, is telling them which is correct for them. And then they have to look at who to inform, who needs to know. So I don't leave any bodies on the floor. So informing helps them to have their signature, which is peace. Manifestors are here to have peace. And when they don't have peace, they have anger. And there's a whole little thing when we get into parenting. I could love to talk about manifestor children because I worked with two twins and a baby all in the same house, all manifestors. So I have personal experience working with all types. And so I would love to share about that because there's important information. The manifestors do not have to ask permission. They're here to inform. And they are on the hierarchy of the energy. They are the ones that could just come and go. They just have to inform. I'm getting up, going to the bathroom, but I'll be back, or I may not be back. And then they can just leave. It's how it is for them. Very, very different. And I've been in workshops where we had manifestors coming back to life, and it was like you could feel the shift in the room when they would stand up and go, I'm leaving now. Walk out the door. We never knew if we, what's going to happen. And you feel held up. And then when they go, you feel that go is the best way for me to explain when a manifestor comes in your energy feeling that you're aware of it. You can feel it. And those boys' mother was a manifestor, and she hired me through the house manager, but I had little interaction with her and I never walked up to her.
Imagine that.
Something I would start to walk towards her and my body would go like this. And later from her daughter, who I was caring for, I got her birth information. She was a 6'2" emotional manifester.
Oh, wow. Wow. You know what would be great if we can have name tags that tell you what type you are.
Yeah, we did that in immersions. We
Oh,
did
did
that
you?
in
That would be
live
so.
immersions. Yeah, we did that.
Can you imagine what a game changer that would be for humanity and just to have
Oh,
the best
yeah,
people
yeah,
in
yeah.
everybody's. Yeah, I would love to do
I
an
mean,
immersion.
yeah, right? Oh, and then the least, are you ready to hear the last type
Yes, yes,
of the
yes,
four?
yes.
And the last type is reflector, and they are very rare, and they are about 1% of the population. And they are like the canaries in the coal mine. Ross said, ideally, in communities, you would like to see per 100 people, one reflector, because they will reflect the health and the wealth and abundance and happiness of the community they're in. So if you've got a sad reflector, who, by the way, has no centers colored in, they have aura that works like a Teflon pan. Nothing sticks to them, and they're never the same person every day. They're a different person according to how the gates that are in their design and definitions are. They are the only lunar type of the four types because the rest are solar types. They have a deep connection with the moon, and it's recommended that they follow the 28 cycle for their decision making process. They're here to be surprised. They're here to catch what's different in society and be surprised by it. But most of them are very disappointed, and most of them are reflecting a not healthy society. And so when I came to human design, I was actually dating a reflector, a 6'2" reflector. And even the lady that brought, she's like, wow, they're rare. Where did you meet him? I said, he lives in my complex, you know? And they
You
really
know,
are,
one.
yeah, they're very different from us. And, you know, I don't usually focus so much on them, but I have had reflector clients come in and, you know, I've had reflectors referred to me, but sometimes I just refer them out to work with other reflectors because they are very different, you know. But they're only about 1% of the population, but they're out there, you know, and they can be a great benefit to a community because they can show you how things are going. And they really have to be called out. They too aren't going to initiate things. You have to call them out. And they prefer to be behind the scenes, so to speak. Um, so yeah, they're very amazing. So if you ever create a chart and you see nothing colored in as far as centers go, then that would be a reflector type. And
Wow.
yeah,
Fascinating learning about all those types. And well, and I know that we're gonna have to do another episode to explore more about the aura strategy and inner authority. But I think, you know, for all of you that are out there that want to know what you are, you know, I'm sure you can, there's apps and maybe Rhonda can recommend one. And if you really want to learn about yourself through somebody that's, you know, got years of experience in this, you know, definitely book a session with her. I know it was a game changer for me, and I'm kind of ready to do another one. There's just so much information, and the great thing is I record everything, and then you do 2 follow-up sessions for questions, Q&A, and to
yeah,
help. So
yeah.
that's really great. But let's I wanted to touch a little bit before we go on 2026 and 2027, which is like you said earlier, for those new souls reincarnating, but it is a profound time to be alive. And if you look at the astrology, and maybe you look at institutes like the Edgar Casey, they have all mentioned that I think 2026 and 2027. I don't think I know they have mentioned that the next year, this year, I can't believe we're in 2026. I say it like it's going to happen. I'm still having a hard time with time and adjusting, and time's moving so quickly to me that it just seems like 2026. Oh my God. But yes, so 2026 and 2027 are transformative years. And I
Mhm.
think on the collective, many of us are feeling a major shift in something, you know, whether you believe in spirituality, or you're just diving into human design, or you're looking for tools to help you figure out what in the hell is going on. Uh,
Yeah.
that is why I decided to do this podcast and this channel, is to bring all this information to people that are, you know, they want to know more.
Yeah.
And so this, for those that are called um to be, you know, for the human design experiment, I think it's we had said, you know, it's inner stability. So once you get to know yourself, I think the key is, what I'm trying to say is that the more you understand yourself and reach that level of authenticity, the easier it is to navigate the waves of instability and stability that we are all feeling as the
Yeah.
humanity. I mean, Earth is going through something. I mean,
Yeah. 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 It's there's signs everywhere, huh?
yeah. And you know, it's funny. Somebody mentioned to me the other day, you know, they're not, yeah, they're into, they know a little bit of astrology, but they were kind of mocking me, or kind of having fun. They're like, "Well, isn't there always something going on in astrology? You guys
Oh
are
yeah. Yeah.
retrograde, like, you know, is it Mercury retrograde you got?" And I said, "You know, it is funny. There is always something going on,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. There always
remind
is. Life is happening.
right." But I
Life
do
is
feel that these particular 20, I think the last 2 to 3 years, and where we're headed, there is a lot of momentum. So just for those
oh yeah.
people that are doubtful. Everybody's feeling it, whether you're into these tools or not. I mean, you could just be walking on the planet, you know, something's happening.
Yes, and we all have a level of consciousness. It's just that there are some on the planet that are more aware, right? And so, there is a level of something, being aware of something, whether you know what that something is a different story. But, it's everywhere. And through the lens of human design and knowing what Ra and the voice had told him, and watching it for as long as I have in this little 14 plus years now that it's been, it's like there's so much that I could see, but I was even seeing it even back then. I was seeing stuff back in 2012, probably even before that, but I was sensing something was happening inside of me. You get a knowing. Everybody can have potential of have this knowing. There's no logic to it, and you just have this inner knowing within yourself. And the thing is that, Ra even said human design is for everyone, meaning it doesn't matter what their religious background is or whatever their belief system is. It's, so it's going to be open to, a wide variety of whoever may be showing up from it with extensive different backgrounds, right? So whether you're Catholic or Christian or Jewish or whatever, so it's, you never know who's going to show up to this, right? And yeah, it's you can see the main theme is the breakdown of communities. Just open up a newspaper. I mean, really, that's the cross of the planning. We had that for over 400 years. Now we're going to be in the planet's frequency, by the way, was held by that incarnation cross. We're going to switch the frequency on the planet from that to the incarnation cross of the phoenix.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
What does that mean, the phoenix? And then we can just go to whatever other topic that, but the phoenix. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. All right. You want me to just talk?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The incarnation cross is all about individuality. It's all about self empowerment. It's not tribal. We've been in sticky tribal with the cross of planning because it was all about the 3740, which is the channel of community, that's what's going through. That's part of this mutation. Actually, by the way, right now we're in a long-term transit with it until May. So very interestingly enough, and that's connected to the solar plexus, which is going through a mutation right now, shifting from both motor to awareness to a pure total awareness center. Like splenic center is the oldest awareness center. So we're going to be shifting. I don't know. I'm sure the splenic center is not going to go away, but I don't know exactly how this changes things in the body graph. But we've relied for ages. The caveman relied on these splenic systems. Okay, so just look at that consideration. We're going to be shifting, and the kids coming in are going to have potentially a whole different way of a whole deeper level of awareness. Some say, some of my teachers said it could be that they don't even need words to communicate. They may be coming in completely able to use telepathy. And interestingly enough, this recently has been talked about by people doing research on children with autism or neurodivergent children, right? Having the capacity with proof that they are telepathic with their mothers. And there's podcasts about this, which is very interesting because, looking at it through the lens of human design, being very aware of this mutation that we're all in, and then the changing of this frequency on the entire planet, going from channel of community, which was we come together, we all do everything to help the tribe, and all the different ways that came about. And now we're going to shift to the individual, which is so very different frequency. It really is. It's, when you learn about circuitry and human design, you learn about tribal, collective, and individual. uh, collective circuitry is all about sharing. So anybody with collective in there, there's an aspect of them that loves sharing pieces of information that they feel will help other people. And then there's the tribal, which is only concerned about their people, right? Their community. That could be family or not family, and all the different ways. Communities are churches, think of the Red Cross, and think about the emergencies that we've had over the past 10 years, especially the one in New Orleans with Hurricane, what was it, Katrina, with the flood and all of that, and how there was no real support for those people. That is a sign of the breakdown of the cross of planning. That's a perfect example of that. And then something happened in Florida too. And then there was somewhere else, Washington. You're not seeing community on the levels that we had 20 years ago. You're not seeing that because it's part of the frequency breakdown on the planet.
Right.
And we're shifting into the self-empowerment where you make decisions from yourself or not. People are still going to be, not looking from within, but looking out there. But those are not going to be reliable. Ross said that when 2027 comes, there will be no one you can count on, no one you can trust, and no one you can rely on but yourself.
Oh,
Well,
well,
that's
that's
a
pretty
quote from
interesting.
him.
Right. And also another theme that I've been seeing a lot more, and also when I do downloads and readings and all those good things, I'm really honing in on a theme here, which I think is interesting, which you just tapped into, which is, that authenticity, being authentic, being
Yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
not really giving a damn what other people think of you, the
exactly.
comparison. And there's so many people that are, even in my network of women, we're all in our 40s, 50s, 60s, some in
Mhm.
their 80s, and everybody's reinventing themselves, and everybody
Uh-huh.
wants to share their truth and their message with others, and it's so important. So there is a theme here about people stepping into their power, which is their authenticity.
Oh, yes. My one of my mentors in human design said the most powerful thing you can, help the planet with is when you are in your frequency of being truly who you are. And that's what the tools of transformation help you to return to that place, that little baby you were born before it got conditioned. It's there. It's just covered up, and it helps you to come back to that. And yeah, the individual is not really concerned about what anybody else is here. It is, however, a very melancholic circuitry. So it's bringing a lot of melancholy to our planet, and a lot of the babies coming in will carry that circuitry too. So there's going to be melancholy, but it's not bad. Melancholy is for creative musing. It's for art, and individuals have potential of really bringing new things onto this planet by bringing in very unique things. So we may see potentially a lot more creativity, which may be very necessary with the shifting of times, thinking outside the box kind of things,
Yeah,
doing
I
things
love that.
very different, right? So, that's the kind of frequency that's really coming on here. And I think we're beginning to feel it. And then there's been talk, and I'm not really sure because it's very advanced. It may come from one of the very advanced classes from Ra, that with this mutation of the solar plexus, that there might be more of a balance with the emotional field. It may not be so turbulent like what it's been. So, but all these things do take time. It's not going to be like there's like, when January 2027 hits there's a switch and then all of a sudden it's still a process that takes time, right?
Right. Well, it's
So,
probably a good thing because then you can ease yourself into it. But chiming in into what you said earlier, getting, and this leads to the next segment in the closing is that it's very important to support the young children into their
Mm.
authentic design so that they can keep their energy flowing on, I guess, on a higher vibration. Because if you're vibing and you're loved and you feel understood and you've got self-expression, that's opening up uh like a wonderful, yummy energy and container for humanity. So I think that human design is should probably be taught in schools from a young age, or that teacher
Oh,
should
yeah.
have a fundamental course. It should be more mainstream. And I think it is becoming more mainstream. I mean, 10,
Oh,
20
yeah.
years ago, human design, nobody
Oh,
talked about human design.
yeah, when I came to it in 2008, there was only Ra's website. Really, there was literally one website, and that was the one he built, and that's Jovian Archive. And,
Right. Yeah.
and
Right.
his sons, his wife, and his sons and friends all operate that, and they operate all the other websites except for the school, which Linda Banal made a promise to run. She runs the school, the International Human Design School. So that's run out from her, and then his family continues the Jovian archive, and it just got all redone.
It did, and I follow him on Instagram, and today it was funny. He was talking about the different types, and he got into the manifesting generator, and then right before we got on the call, I was reading the comments, and everybody's like, "But wait, what about manifesting generator? You're just talking about generators. You're talking about manifestors. You're talking
Yes, yes,
projectors." He didn't get to reflectors on that. But and I thought, there's just so many questions. But I do think
yes, right.
I always announce who I'm going to be interviewing, and I have Joseph wrote in a question for us, and it's a basic question, and he's let me read it. I am a manifesting generator, but is there a type which is more inclines more, like, is the generator more important or the manifestor more important, or is it level when you're both a manifesting generator? Because it's the only one that is both types. But you just said it's just that you're more of a generator. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm feeling it out because it's so confusing, and it was confusing for me coming in because the focus is always on generators. you know,
Right. Or
it's not that
manifestors.
I'm not a generator, but I'm a manifesting generator, and so I totally get and have compassion for the confusion. And there's websites which I would not recommend going to that are trying to say it's a whole nother type by itself, and that information is not coming from Ra. I would just say you exercise caution when going out there. And now you have the mix of AI, and, AI is just not reliable. It really, you have to be very careful when you start relying on these things because we are breaking down. And I believe, AI could be part of that breaking down eventually, right? So, and it's not necessarily accurate. So, manifesting generators have a throat connection by one of the motor gates. Okay. And so it's for me as a manifesting generator, my configuration is that if you looked at my chart, my channel of charisma, which is the 3420, it starts at my sacral center and it goes all the way up and it travels directly to my throat. And it says, I am in the now. It's gate 20. I am in the now. you know, I'm doing this now. And it's all about self empowerment, self absorption. I'm in my thing, man. Don't bother me, and it's not a bad thing. Leave them alone because manifesting generators are here to become efficient at something. Maybe they're going to come up with an eyeliner that doesn't smudge. They're going to come up maybe with some kind of unique thing over time in their self absorption. It's a very individualistic gate channel, rather, and configuration. It's part of, you know, the individual circuitry. And it is about being in the now. And it has a throat connection So, the keynote for it is the thoughts must become deeds. And what I learned in my strategy and authority, because, we're known not to have patience. I had to learn patience as a manifesting generator. Oh my God. Patience in my waiting, not necessarily with people, right? Which my friend says, and I'm like, boy, I can relate to that one. I can have patience for myself, but the other people still could drive me nuts, maybe. I don't know. Um, but we can appear to look like we're moving a little bit faster than the generators. Generators have to go step by step by step. They have to do A to Z. Now, say they're working on a project and a manifesting generator comes along and looks at that process and says, "Oh, I know I can do that." They respond into that, and then they learn that they can jump M, they could jump Z. They can. Oh, well, I just come up with a faster way of doing that. And then what they can do is come back to the generator and say, "Look, I found a quicker, easier way of doing this. You don't necessarily have to do all of that." And so we have the potential to become very efficient. However, if we haven't learned to take some pauses from time to time, we end up going way too fast, skipping steps, then getting frustrated, that we miss
Oh my
something.
God, you just described me.
Yeah, I mean, Ra used to joke and said he would never want a manifesting generator to be doing surgery on him. I
That is
totally get that.
hilarious. That is so
Yes,
fun.
I mean, so it's they have a throat connection to a motor,
Okay.
bottom line. So that's the difference, but they are still a generator because of their auras being open and enveloping.
Oh, right. Okay. So
And
for all you manifesting generators, just keep that in mind.
yes, and we're here to be efficiency experts. I've heard the term warrior Buddhas. Our warrior is here to, or yeah, our warrior is here to bow to the Buddha, meaning take pauses. We can be that racehorse chomping at the bit, trying to fly out the gate. And, depending on what your authority is, I mean, if you're emotional and you fly out that gate, I can't even imagine, manifesting generators meet resistance a hell of a lot faster than a generator does,
Mhm. Right,
because we're
right,
just
right.
gonna slam into that. So, really becoming aware, follow your strategy and authority, and you can really be a force to reckon with,
All right,
really.
guys. So closing with that, I learn your design. Ask us questions. I will be watching out for that. That's what helps. And Rhonda and I are going to do, or we're thinking about it. I think we've said yes to a parenting something where we can
Yeah.
help parents, because then that's how you help the children. And I'm looking forward to that other one. And it might be fun to do something live, maybe on YouTube one day, and kind of get this moving. But it all starts with the children, and self-love and the love of life, and how to understand, and how to it's a recipe for harmony, understanding human design. And there's just so much information, Rhonda. I mean, I could just sit here for another hour. We could just dive deeper and deeper and deeper. So I do have a question here for you. Are you having any live immersions coming up in the
Well,
near future?
I
Or
haven't been asked.
okay, but
Yeah.
all right, maybe
So
online. Maybe we
eventually,
could,
maybe.
record online.
Yeah, I have an event tomorrow at a place called the Body Oracle. And this is the second time that they're inviting me. There are going to be children there. So it's like a family event. And I'm
Oh,
doing
fun.
human design mini readings. And so I'm very excited about that. And I'm also doing Reiki. I am through human design, my teacher showed up and I got certified all the way to mastery in Yusui Reiki. So I do practice Reiki, typically not on other people, but recently I got called out to practice on somebody and they want to do sessions on for Reiki on me. I'm like, cool. So
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
even
good.
expect that. Yeah. But I'm also contemplating, are we still taping?
Yes.
Oh, we are. I'll wait for us to stop.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. Well, Rhonda, it's been a
Yeah.
pleasure. We're gonna just do the closure. I'm just so thrilled that we did this today. I know that we had been working and thinking out,
Yeah.
how we can approach this in a layman's terms. And for all those that are new to human design or have heard of human design, and I will put all the links and stay tuned for more to come. And you can listen to this in audio on your favorite platform, and it will be on your YouTube channel, Akashic Insight 369. And once again, thank you for everybody's support. And Rhonda is just, an authority on this subject, and I am just honored to have her on Birthday Mystica.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is such a joy. And, I love to be in service to people with this because, I
Yeah.
know what it's done for me. And I hope I can, my fractal shows up and I can help support them too.